Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and on today's video, we're going to talk about something that could affect crop production that U.S. farmers face plague of pests as soil temperatures rise and raise. This is September 6, 2022. This is Strange Sounds. This exact same article, paragraph for paragraph, is in The Guardian, and I'm sure others carried it too. And this is just interesting because, everybody on the right, global warming's not real. It's just ridiculous. We can't even talk anything responsible about the environment. But I mean, Strange Sounds isn't exactly a left-leaning website. They just have some interesting stuff out there, and they covered this. And you know, when every gallon of gas you burn emits 20 pounds of carbon dioxide, okay, and all of that carbon stays in an area, the first layer of Earth's atmosphere, which on average is 7.5 miles over your head. Um, I don't see how the planet's not getting warmer. Now, am I saying things are going to be catastrophic and a lot of what? No, not necessarily. I don't know. No one knows. I say, why take the chance when we don't have to? Because all we have to do is live responsibly. But I'll tell you, they're talking about soil temperatures rising here, and they give a map of where it was, where it's gonna. Now this is all projection here into the future, but I'll tell you what. When I lived in Colorado in the '90s, I don't know, midway through, all the trees in Vail were just you're on the mountain, they're all just like dying, and this not even a light brown, light reddish brown like tint to them. And I asked some people at first, I'm like, does the Forest Service know this? They must know. Like, I see it, they must see it, because it's Forest Service land, believe it or not. Vail, they act like they print like they own the place, but it's actually Forest Service land, and they have the permit to operate a national forest land ski area. And they operated for the very elite, which I've had issues with. But the thing is all these trees were dying, and people were like, oh, that's beetle kill. Like the pine beetle, it used to die off in the winter because it used to get so cold for a long period of time, and now that doesn't happen anymore. And I mean, that whole area was ravaged by the pine beetles. They're still trying to recover out there, and I'm up in Montana now, and the pine beetle, has crept into here. Now here, it still does get a lot colder in the winter for a lot longer than it does in Colorado. So, it's been dampered a little bit. It hasn't like really surfaced like it did in Colorado in the '90s, but I mean that happened in the '90s, and that can only happen when things are getting warmer. Okay, the pine beetle moving north. And that's what they're saying about these pests, is they're gonna move north. This is what it's been, the northern limits, the transitional zone in the yellow, and the southern range. And so, the southern range is where things always used to survive, and then the transitional zone is where um, yes and no, they wouldn't, they could die off, they could maybe make it through a winter, and then in the northern zone, it was definitely die off territory. But now, with warming, things aren't dying off, and they're creating problems. And now, right here, this is the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service from the Department of Agriculture, and it says hungry pests are invasive species that threaten to harm crops and trees. Left unchecked, they can devastate entire agricultural industries, eliminating jobs, threatening our food supply, and costing billions. So, these are a real threat. And right now, they're saying that Soil temperatures are rising and pests are now attacking food higher north because, the warming is happening more north. So, agricultural pests that devour key food crops are advancing northward in the U.S. and becoming more widespread as temperatures heats up. So it says new research. The earworm is considered to be among the most common farm pests in the U.S., ravaging crops such as maize, cotton, soya, and other vegetables. It spends winter underground and is not known to survive in states beyond a latitude of 40-degree north, which runs from Northern California through the Midwest to New Jersey. But that's changing as soils warm and it spreads to new areas, according to research led by North Carolina State University. It found that, the University of Washington in 2018 found a 3.6 Fahrenheit degree of warming would boost the number and appetite of insects globally, causing them to destroy 50% more wheat and 30% more maize than they do now. Rising heat stress is already affecting yields, they say, and Europe is down with the heat waves and drought, and, farmers are getting paid to not plant, and food production facilities are burning down across this country. I just heard Dave Hodges on Mike Adams today say 100 since Biden's been in office, I think, the newest White House occupation's been there. So there's attack on our food supply. It's not like we even need these pests, but they're just one more worry that we have right now. So it says that pest invasions have serious implications for food security. As the climate changes, the overwintering zones are likely to shift northward, and making sense of what's taking place with the corn earworm is really important for agricultural producers. Other pests that could spread north in the U.S. in a similar way include armyworm, green clover, soybean looper, and the velvet bean caterpillar. They these are invasive species, and we protect them from staying out of our rivers and waters, right? You got to get your boat inspected. You can't carry things with you. It's it's when things change, and bad things can happen. I mean, that right there would have been a nice ear of corn if it weren't for the pests that now get to attack it. Um, So right here, it says the southern range, which is the blue, the southern range, okay, has grown by 3% since 1981 and is predicted to double in size by the end of the century, which, people are like, oh, that's 80 years from now, as the other zones get smaller. And it says corn earworm moths are able to disperse up to 600 miles using seasonal winds, meaning they can spread fast if conditions are good. So they can take over a lot of land in not a lot of time and then survive the winter and just cause more havoc the further north they go. So yeah, right here, it says like in Minnesota, no corn earworms have successfully survived its harsh winters, but the model suggests the whole state will be in a transitional zone by the end of the century, and that could be very true. People, global warming is not real. There's so many problems with everything that we do that cause so many problems. We just need to live responsibly. That's my whole shtick. And if global warming's real, then yeah, we should be concerned about it. But it's not the singular most charge, okay? But the fact of the matter is these insects are moving forward, and that can only happen when things are warming, just like the pine beetle invading Colorado back in the 90s. And now they're making their way north because that's what happens when climates change. And it could be a natural change too. But it's not natural. The ocean garbage patch, which we need to end our disposable society. Like, I am the solutions the world needs that no one has allowed since November 93 that would have solved so many problems, including potentially this. But, that's just for the global warming is not real crowd. I don't care, man. It doesn't matter. You know, a little itsy bitsy microscopic virus can overtake a human body. Humans in mass can overtake Earth's ability to support you. And this right here, it just says, models say that this insect could expand its overwintering range into the U.S. bays melt in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, and it could, affect the maize belt. And those farmers work hard out there, and they work to give you food, not not to have their livelihood get destroyed in their hard work. I mean, those guys work dawn to dusk, year round. It's Oh my God, what they do. I talked to some farmers out here in Montana is really where I've talked to a lot of farmers, and man, oh man, those guys just put in long, long, hard days and years, and this could be the end result of everything. And they put a million or more in seeds in the ground every year, and then they hope those seeds come to a harvest so that they can make their money back and cover all the rest of their expenses. And it's not a guarantee, so we really shouldn't be working against them. And not caring about things is working against them. So it says organic growers have a major challenge controlling this pest and often accept significant crop losses when infestations are very high. So, but right here, helping farmers control them more effectively, the report suggests that monitoring soil temperatures could help predict the spread of the pests, which would help farmers control them. And they'd like to come up with better forecasting tool. But, it's not just about forecasting. It's about humans living responsibly so that if this is human induced, that we put a stop to it, if nothing else, but to keep food on your plate, which Americans and people around the world are going to be finding out about how much we took that for granted very soon. So this is just another way that can hamper that. And we have enough challenges facing us right now. So this was just some interesting news. This is reality and something to be aware of. So just live responsibly, people. I mean, the best, most important thing you could do is just end your disposable society. Just you, just not using disposables, right? And then other people going, wow, you really don't. You don't have to preach it, just do it. It's easy to do. I do it. It's easy. I live a 21st century life, you know. Turn off your electricity, which people are finally starting to do now that electric bills are becoming financially crippling. And it took that to get Americans to be like, turn off that wasted electricity. Hey, maybe we don't need those lights on during the day. And guess what? You don't. You just turn them on because it's habit. So we can all just live responsibly. We can help out the farmers. We can help out each other. And we can, help prevent many, many, many potential negative consequences of our just taking everything for granted. So stay tuned, people.